name is Tam. Pleased to meet you." He reached toward her again, stepped even closer. She thought he was going to put his warm hand on her arm or shoulder again, but he didn't. He put the sack down and used his other hand to lift her arm so their hands clasped. Then he didn't let go and kept his other hand over hers as well. But it would have been more fun if you were the ghost. "The ghost, tell me about her." He released her hand with one of his, the one that had been grasping hers in a handshake, but still held hers with his other hand, and he turned so they were side by side. He dipped and picked up his sack. Then they started walking, hand in hand. He told her the story. By the time he finished, they were already up in the light tower, his breath on her neck, her heart strumming endorphins like winning the freestyle. She'd climbed the coil of metal steps that spiraled up inside the tower, 2 steps behind him, still holding his hand. They'd had to let go as they each climbed through the hole in the floor of the gallery, the little room atop the tower that held the light. Then, like a dance, he'd taken her hand again and guided her so she stood in front of him at the glass. His hands went to her hair, gathering it, combing it with his fingers, smoothing it back. Tam stood facing out to sea, over the bell house, toward the dark careening buoy. Straight down below, the waves were white, engulfing the rocks, then retreating. The fog bank rising over the distant peninsula glowed as though holding the setting sun. The keeper thought he saw a shadow move against one of the empty summer cabins. She disappeared around the corner. He continued reciting the story, and his hands slid to her shoulders. Then his arms encircled her waist, and he edged even closer behind her. In the middle of the story, between sentences, he whispered in a different voice, "Tell me to stop. Just tell me any time." She said nothing. Thought of nothing except that part of her was part of him, and she didn't know him. So for that moment, she didn't know herself. And somehow, that was ultimate peace. She never shut her eyes, even as he gathered her skirt up and let his hand slip beneath it to her bare legs. Even when he eased her underwear down by putting his fingers into the elastic band, then sliding both his palms over her bare butt, the underwear riding down on his hands. Even when he once again held her around her waist with one arm and penetrated her with one finger, then 2. They never found out who she was. He stopped telling the story and she felt him undoing the zipper on his jeans, so she lifted one leg and stepped out of her underwear that had fallen to her ankles. One of his arms around her waist, one of his hands slid up her back, pressing, pushing gently until she was leaning forward, bent at the waist, her hands on the sill of the tower window. "Tell me no if you don't want to," he whispered again, rasping a little, but she raised her butt slightly, and he slid in. "It's like you are her," he said, low and hoarse. His voice made her shiver, then the shivering didn't stop. Her forehead leaned against the clear glass side of the tower. The red glass was behind them, possibly silhouetting them. With the setting sun breaking out of the fog and shining into the tower, the shape of their copulation could be visible in the red through binoculars from the north. His rhythm wasn't short and choppy, but long, like rollers coming in on a steady wind. "Unbelievable," he gasped, before he cried out and panted again, "I can't believe this." They stood there until he could no longer stay inside her. He fixed his pants. She pulled up her underwear. He stayed behind her and held on to her, his face beside hers. He said, "Who are you?" "Thank you."